Welcome back to the Women in AV podcast. I am your host, Erica Carroll, and I'm excited to bring to you our special end of year episode today. We are wrapping up another fantastic year in AV, and I have two incredible guests joining with me today to reflect on the year and look at what's ahead on the horizon. We have Erin. Hello, Erin.
Hi, Erica.
So Erin is the hostess of the EDTech podcast here on AVNation. And we have Jennifer with us. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, ladies. How are we today?
Phenomenal. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer is also a hostess for us of the AV Career Mastermind podcast. Welcome to both of you. So let's jump right in. I always love to hear about how people got their start in AV, how they found their way. Erin, let's start with you. How did you get your start and what sparked your interest?
Yeah, so I have a somewhat similar story to many in higher ed AV in that it was my work study job during undergrad. I walked into the job fair and was like, what's available that's not food service? And so they kind of pointed over to a table of a bunch of young men, and they were like, yeah, we set up TV carts in classes. And I was like, I can do that. And they were like, awesome. And I had no idea at that point in time that this was very much a male dominated job, because RIT at the time was 10 men to 1 woman as it was. So I just thought that was normal. Like it just seemed like that was RIT. Like that was how things were, not knowing that in the actual AV community, that was kind of how the odds were anyway. But yeah, I kind of, I loved it. It was a lot of fun, a great way to make money during that time frame. And then when I graduated, my supervisor was moving on to another job, and they were like, we need somebody to fill in. What are you doing? And I was like, well, I could do this for a little while. And as they're interviewing candidates for the full-time position, they weren't really finding the right fit. And they were like, why don't you just apply for the full-time thing? And I was like, yeah, all right. Yeah, I'll stay on for a little bit. And I was there for 5 years, and now in Hopkins for 20. So
that's amazing. Jen, what's your AV origin story?
So I got into AV because I taught with a smart board and a projector. So way back in the day, a smart board on a stand and a projector. And then when I decided I didn't want to teach anymore, I wanted to sell smart. That's what I wanted to do. So I had stopped teaching. I had relocated from being up in Ohio to South Florida, and I just started to do some research. Smart at the time wasn't hiring for any positions in Florida, and I found an audio-visual integrations company and just called them up and said, this is what I'd like to do, and this is what I know. I don't know anything about anything else that you did, because I did some research. I'm like, I don't know anything about all this other stuff you do, but I know how to work a smart board. I know how to talk to people. And I said, I really know how to, adjust my projector and work with my smart board when it got bumped, because my projector was on a table and I had to figure out, because I was not going to reorient it every time. So I got very crafty in doing that. So yeah, basically I taught and just decided I didn't want to teach. And, because I use that technology, I'm like, I can probably do that. And I had some great mentors when I started, because I used to work for a company called Southern Business Communications. And they taught me a lot of what I know now, because like I said, I knew nothing. I knew smart, I knew my projector, I knew the software, and wasn't afraid to stand in front of people and talk to them.
That's fascinating. I had no idea that you were a teacher before.
High school.
Literally everybody just falls into it.
Yeah. That's why yesterday I was so excited with all the kids, right?
So with that non-intentional path into AV, really making that decision, I would say that was probably a huge accomplishment. And I know, starting this podcast this year was pretty awesome too. What would you say are other, or what's your biggest accomplishment, maybe personally or professionally, that happened over the past year?
I've had a few really big ones, and they're all so meaningful. But I think the one that probably, I think it feels like the most, because it's not something that I was directly already kind of involved in, like higher ed AV and the AV Pro of the Year. Like, I am on the HETMA board, which technically like owns higher AV media. So I'm like, like that is amazing and means a lot, but I'm connected to it. And so being named to EdTech Magazine's 30 higher ed IT professionals to watch, like, or follow or something like that. That's probably the one that means the most, because
super
it's
cool.
completely unconnected to like anybody that I really work with on a regular basis. So it's like, it just seems like that much more meaningful. I know it, not to take away from any of the other things, but
No, well, I think you're right. When it's something like that, it's a different part of the community that you're involved in.
yeah.
So you're involved in it, but not fully. Yeah, that was a great one. Yeah, that was a good one too.
Yeah. Jennifer, same question for you, and I have a few things that come to mind for you, also because you just mentioned that this event you were at with the kids, and tell us about the kids. I was there too. It was amazing.
Yes. So I think probably there's two of them that really come to mind, and both of them transpired when I was unemployed for several months, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do within the industry and where I wanted to go and do things. So, and they're kind of both at the top because they're two passions of mine to begin with. So one is, when I doing the podcast with AVNation, talking about careers in AV and helping and people finding a job and what they can do and different things. Because I think it's one of those things where we want to get more people into the industry and not just say we're going to poach somebody from other companies. So in conjunction with that, I'm also on the board of Next Level Learning, who was co-founded by George Chacko and Rich Miller from Pace University. And it's funny because in my time of trying to figure out where I was going to go and talking to Tim about the podcast, I had reached out to Rich and George and said, look, I have this idea. You two would be the first who I came through. What if there was some type of nonprofit that focuses on youth? And they said, oh, Jen, just wait. We're already in the works with something. And I said, whatever you need from me, I don't even sign me up. Because it's one of those things where it's like I wasn't going to try and do something on my own if somebody was already doing what was envisioned. And I knew those two at the time had the same passion for getting youth into the industry like I did. So, so I'm on the board of Next Level Learning, which is so fun. And yeah, we had an event yesterday with 150. So when everybody and anybody hears this, the event was on November 20th. And we had 150 plus high school kids at Pace University talking to them about the AV industry and all aspects of it.
So much fun, and they were so engaging and willing to ask questions, and I'm sure the catch box helped, like,
yes,
I want to catch the microphone.
Yeah. Well, and and that's what I said. Like, I was seeing and looking, I'm like, but originally when I first saw that product years ago, I'm like, man, is this really going to work? Because I know myself. I can't catch nor I can throw, but it's not bad. Like, people love it. Like, I get afraid when I throw it because I'm going to hit somebody in the back of the head.
You did a great job. It was more like chunking than it was throwing.
Yes.
I think the kids call it yeet, that you yeeted it.
Yeah, no, that's like
anyway.
My head. I don't understand the lingo. Anyway, moving on.
You both had some pretty amazing years this year. And I want to open the spectrum a little bit. What have you seen in AV this year that were maybe some challenges or something that we faced as an industry? Again, I have something in mind.
I'm going to say all the layoffs. Like, I think this year we saw so many companies laying people off. Just, by large companies, and not just within the US, globally, just by the hundreds. And
I agree. I've seen a lot of that this year.
yeah, that's one thing that sticks out in my mind.
Erin, while you're thinking, I'll go ahead and throw out my the big question this year was always about AI and technology and how that's impacting our industry. But the challenge, I think, is that everybody always wraps that question around fear. Like, are you worried? Are people taking away your jobs? What are you scared of with this? And I don't think that new technological progress should be scary. It's an opportunity, and I don't think people are framing it in the right way.
No, I love that you framed it that way in as opportunity. Because I was kind of thinking of now, especially in the higher ed space, one of the challenges that we're coming up on is that, it is now 2024. A lot of schools had CARES Act money. So they were able to redo a lot of things. But as technology changes quickly, and we are now almost a handful of years removed, like now it's like, what is next? Because a lot of times, yeah, they got to redo rooms, but they weren't exactly how they needed to be done, or because it was kind of like, well, we got to use the parts that are available to us now. And because of supply chain issues, like people kind of used whatever they had or could get access to. And they also learned that the rooms are going to be used in a different sort of way than they initially thought straight out of the pandemic. So now it's like trying to retrofit in, oh, well, we wanted a camera that shot the professor, but now most professors don't want that. They want the students on camera. So it's like reorientation or putting in extra equipment. And now it's like, okay, where do we get the money for that? Because, we had that money, they had money given to them or specially allotted due to the circumstances, but it's like, okay, now we got to renew, replace. We're getting to, life cycle changes. And so, yeah, I think budgeting and life cycling is going to be a very interesting thing to handle in over the next couple of years coming out of the COVID stuff.
Absolutely. So let's go a little bit more positive. Yes, I agree with all of those challenges. That's sort of a challenge for the manufacturers listening to, and all the parties involved. That how do we continue to navigate the
Right.
decisions we already made previously? But on a more positive note, Jen, I'd like to ask you: was there anything, any pleasant surprises or things that made you particularly proud to be part of the industry this year?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the fact that while I was unemployed for months, the community reached out, sent, job leads, opportunities, asked what I was looking for. So knowing, and they also, it was nice to know too that I kind of wanted to stay in a certain focus, and that wasn't shunned upon, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you people think, oh, well, you're unemployed, you should take whatever you can get. Well, that's not the case, right? Because if you do that, you might only be there for a couple months, and I'm not that type of person. So I wanted to find something I could put my heart and soul in. So that is the one thing I'm extremely proud of, to say that the community and the network of people that I know and know me were very supportive, very open, very willing to reach. Like even Erin let me come up. The HETMA did an event at Enterprise Connect, and they let me tag along with them up there to help them and support them. And so it's just things like that
Mm-hmm.
made it feel okay that I'm supporting, but I'm not getting paid, but I'm still reaching out. I'm still relevant. I'm still in front of people. And it was totally fine because it was what I wanted to be able to do. And so yeah, that I don't think you get that in a lot of other industries.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this one is definitely, that's one thing I was very proud to say, yes, I'm part of the AV industry, because when I felt like I was down, down pretty low, I had people that were around and checking in and supporting and helping me try to navigate through that time.
That's awesome. Erin, same question.
Yeah, I love that you had just mentioned about like the support and stuff that, and I think you're right. The AV community is different in that, yeah, we are a lot. There is a lot of competition between manufacturers and stuff like that, and but I feel like there really is kind of for the most part a collaborative spirit in that, in helping people out, even though you work for somebody else and are part of different organizations. And I think that's why, like, I really appreciate Wave It and other organizations that take people from across the board and really put together us in a common interest, to support each other, even though we all do work for different things. But
Right.
I'm also proud that the AV industry really seemed to fare this election cycle very well, even though we are all on different ends of spectrums and all across the board. But I think, like, I can't remember really a time where anybody got too political and too like one-ended of things and got a little extreme, and everybody seemed to really just respect each other and how they're feeling and stuff. And even though I know that, like, I felt a certain way about the results, and I know other people felt a different way, they were still very supportive and like not sympathetic, but they cared, that like they knew I was feeling a certain way, and they were like, you know what, I'm gonna let you feel your way. And that was kind of nice. That it's not that I was expecting people to be like, oh, but
yeah, but sometimes you never know. Yeah.
right, it's like everybody's generally supportive no matter what their views
Right.
are.
Yeah.
Right.
So nice.
I think that really highlights the resilience within our industry too. That I don't even remember where I heard this, but I think it's a phenomenal thing that the AV industry is actually a people industry disguised as hardware and technology.
That's all. Yeah, that is a great way to think about it. A great way to think about it.
Shifting then, looking forward, Jennifer, what are you most excited about for the AV industry, for your podcast? What are you most excited about in the year to come?
I'm really excited to help grow, I think, people in a way that they can expand their careers. And, especially with Next Level, to be able to say, there's all kinds of aspects of jobs in the industry. Not only is it sales and manufacturer and integrator and distributor and all of that, but like every organization, they need marketing, they need accounting, they need HR. All of these companies need that. So it's being able to say, just because you might not know that company name, don't be afraid to take the shot. And if you go to their website and you see it's all like kind of technology stuff, we're not an industry that you should be fearful of, I think. And I think because it is technology, sometimes people are a little fearful of it because they don't know. Like, I look at when somebody starts talking networking to me, I'm like, it goes all over my head. I don't understand networking one bit, but I'm not afraid of it, right? So that's one thing I'm excited to look forward for next year is growing the reach within the young professional, whether that's that high school or whether it's that higher ed professional trying to figure out what they want to do. And like some of us were talking, you get so many people that in college right now might have some type of a degree for say they want have a biology degree, but they don't want to be a doctor. Or what are they going to do with a biology degree? They have a degree, but they don't want to do anything with what their degree is about. Come talk to us. We'll take you. You're young. We'll take you.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to helping expand and get some more youngsters in, because that age is.
I'm there with you.
Oh, you're younger than I am, so we're
no, but I'm still passionate about growing the industry and getting the kids involved, and even at a younger level, the work that we're doing with Rosie Riveters.
Right.
Going back to like exciting things that happened this year, we were able to get STEM kits to like over 3,000 kids this past year, teaching them
Amazing.
about AV and the careers and what could you, how much could you earn? What's your potential? And showcasing those brands, right? People think that logos are just a thing, in marketing. Yeah, I get to slap my logo on that, but it's more than that, right? When a kid drives by, or his parent drives by McDonald's every day, by the time he's 15, he's like, oh, I know exactly what happens in that building. I can absolutely go work there. But when you're driving by an AVISPL building and you remember that they did these STEM kits and you start thinking, oh, that's what they do in that building, then that also now becomes an opportunity.
Yeah, continuing to further the if you see it, you can be it, like sort of mindset. Like if they recognize that, oh, that's an option. That's fantastic. And I hope we can do more of that.
I hope so too. Erin, do you have something that you're most excited about in the year to come?
Yeah, I mean, I think I am excited to kind of continue the work of changing the face of AV, like changing what people think of when they think of like an AV technician. There's kind of an image that people have, I think, when you hear, that an AV tech is coming, you're like, oh, there's like this middle-aged white guy who's going to show up. No offense to my middle-aged white guys, I love you, but there's way too many of you. And I look forward to having those youngsters coming in and more diversity in who is part of the AV space. And I think getting to like open those doors and try and make opportunities happen for everybody is I really am excited to keep doing that and really like try to ramp it up, especially now that like I'm winding down my graduate studies. So I'm like, once that's done and I don't have to take up brain space for schoolwork, now I can, I need to find something new to occupy that space. So why have more outreach work with AV.
Yeah. Jen, you have such a unique perspective from your AV Career Mastermind podcast. What advice would you give a woman who is considering a career in AV or wanting to move up into the industry?
From the aspect of is when you start to, if you're just going to look and you're going to apply someplace, right? If we just look at it from a resume and application perspective, ignore a lot of the standard things that are on there. A lot of them are copy paste. They don't get very much updated based on what's happening with trends within the market, whatever market it is, and even regionally based on where people are living. So don't get discouraged if you see. My favorite one is the must lift 50 pounds, because that's usually probably one time, right? It's like one time at a trade show, depending on what you're doing and where you are or whatever. And yes, we all know we can do it. Somebody's going to get discouraged. Like I know, I could do it. I picked up my kid. I'm not discouraged, but somebody that's a mother that has kids that knows they can do it, they might read that. And it just doesn't, just sometimes when you're looking for a job, it just doesn't, you don't relate it, right? It's just, you don't think about those other things. So ignore some of those things. That's what I tell. And my big thing is go through and highlight the things that you can do, but ignore some of those other things. And really, if you get to that point in the interview, and if it happens to come up, just ask the question, like, how many times a year am I going to have to do that? And what do you mean by that? And, is it loading stuff in my car? Well, yes, I can probably do that, right? I've schlepped TVs in and out of my car, right? So you figure those things out. So, and don't be afraid. And it's and even going through the process of myself looking for a job, you're not the one being interviewed solely. You're doing the interviewing too. So don't sit back and just let them continue to ask you questions. You applied for the job because you want to be there. the company, what start asking them the hard questions about company culture and about work-life balance and about travel and all of those things. So, and if they say, oh, the one thing that is very interesting now is a lot of people don't want to travel because everything can be hybrid. If you want to travel, make it a point to say that in your interview that travel, I don't mind traveling. Or however you want to say it, but just don't sit back and be afraid. We need more strong voices. So that's
I
the
love
big
that.
thing. It's just, yeah.
Interviewing the company is something that's really important to me too. And I hate when you get questions like, tell me about a time where a conflict arose and how did you manage that? And blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's all great. And if you can answer that, wonderful. But also, turn the damn table. Tell me about a time
Right?
that you had 2 employees that had conflict and how did you manage through that? Like you want to
Well,
know where you're going, who you're working for.
exactly. And that's the standard question. So, and I look at all of these like through LinkedIn and everybody that posts about, how to prepare for an interview and the questions they're all the same questions. They are all the same questions. So if you don't know how to answer that question when you're sitting in an interview, but the other thing too is these companies stop asking these questions, because what ends up happening is you get the person that's prepared for the interview to answer their questions because they know they're going to get asked this question. So they're prepared. They may not be able to resolve it the way they answered it in a real life situation. So ask way different questions. Make it conversational. That's the other thing I think is you're going to see a lot of people if you can just kind of be conversational with them. Yeah.
And from a hiring manager perspective, I want people to ask me questions, because that helps me gauge really how interested you are in working here. The people who ask the fewest questions or just like a generic thing that I'm like, were you even trying? Like, do you really even want to work here? That if they don't ask anything, it really kind of makes me wonder and puts them kind of towards the bottom of the list, even if they were like every single thing they answered right. Because you're right, like a lot of the questions that I ask are very similar to
Yeah.
anything they'd ever be asked, because I do want to get a feeling more of people's kind of soft skills than their technical knowledge and stuff. But yeah, you have to have a little bit of put the hiring managers on notice,
Yeah.
like
And
make them talk about how it is to work there.
well, and Erin, do you see as a hiring manager, you can, and I just think, and probably Erica too, is it's easier to teach technical skills to people
Absolutely.
than it is to teach
100%.
soft skills to people.
Yeah. I mean, especially because most of the time we do hire kind of like entry level. So yeah, we can train the technical things. It's the culture fit that really is the important one. And we've started putting in an extra round of interview that is with the team, and they get to meet each of the candidates. And we kind of started calling it's the vibe check, because we want to make sure that they're all going to work together really well. Like, we don't want a cookie cutter. We don't want everybody to be exactly the same, but we want everybody to be able to get along and work really well together. And so, like, if they can sit there in a room together and they're chatting away and vibing, we're like, this will work.
I read one time that Whole Foods, before it was purchased by Amazon, used to have group hiring. So a person would go through the interview process, they would get hired, and they're like in this probationary period for 2 or 3 weeks. And the other people in that team would then have to give the final answer of like, yes, this person works well with us, or no, this person probably wouldn't work well with us.
Because it's kind of like a short probationary period almost.
Yeah.
That's neat.
First impressions, I think, matter. A question that I ask all of my guests: what are you reading or listening to, or what have you learned recently that's worth sharing?
So literally while I was on the plane today, and I'm not a big reader, I did read is it Denise's book from the UK on the new book on finding your dream job in the audiovisual industry. I did read that. It was very interesting. She went into a lot of description of what job roles are, what positions are, description of what like a manufacturer is and all of that. The only thing that for me living in the United States, because she lives in the UK, the only thing for me being in the United States, a lot of her reference were UK based things, which they have some great things over there that we don't have here. So that was that's one thing that I with doing my podcast, I'm going to take that now and kind of figure out and go, okay, they have this in the UK. Let's figure out what that potential correlation or comparable thing here is in the States. But it was definitely very interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually, and of course, now I can't think of what exactly the title of it was, but it's written by JJ Rory, and it's about it's the book was specifically written for product managers, but it's kind of about the top things that product managers should be doing for success or whatnot. And there were so many really good things in there. I had to read a couple of the chapters for school, but the one of them was one of the top points was about customer intelligence. So now like buzzwords are like everyone talks about EQ and emotional intelligence or social intelligence. And so customer intelligence is, one of the things that they were like, companies need to know and be more familiar with. And of course, as soon as I'm reading that, I'm like, there's definitely some companies that do that really well. They have their finger on the pulse of their different varied customers and stuff. And then there's some that probably could stand to read that and pick up a few tips because it's so important. And even most of the AV industry sees technology managers like myself as end users, but we too have end users, and we have to make sure that we are familiar with what our customers need and want. So yeah, it was a neat kind of reminder to look in the classrooms, make sure it matches like what they're telling us and what is actually happening can be two totally different things sometimes, but bam.
Well, and to that, I think that's one of the things that makes a very successful higher ed focused, right? Because you all have multiple customers. It's not like when you kind of get into corporate America, you're kind of dealing specifically with that customer of what they need and what they want and what they're in there. But when you go into a space as a technology salesperson or an AV salesperson, we think you should have, all the amazing widgets and the new technology that's coming out there. And why don't you, why do you still have, like, I still do it because former teacher, I'm like, why are there still chalkboards in here? I'm like that as a teacher, but anyway, that's just me. But you have the professors, you have the students, you have, depending on the level of the university, the deans and the provost. You have all of these things that are all your customers. So you have multiple needs of people, and we as technology sales can't be like, oh, this one widget's going to solve your problem, because it might solve one of four. So knowing that, that's great to think about that. The customer experience. I like that.
Yeah, one of the things also was about the customer chain too, and thinking about the manufacturer through the end user, but then all the steps in between of like marketing to the distributor or the third party, that's going to put it on their shelves and all of these things. So it was really interesting because I really think about it from myself to my end user, and I'm like, oh, but there's also these other people that also have to be in consideration in order for it to go from the manufacturer to get to me.
Being on the marketing side of things, it's really a lot of pre-sale considerations like you're talking about, who all, because it's manufacturers reps, it's distribution, it's integrators, right? There's so many levels. But then when I put my training hat on, a lot of that is post sales, and I have to think of, Erin, yes, you would be an end user, but you're also technically an integrator for me, the way I have to look at it, because you have to be able to support your own product.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yep.
So, we have a tradition here. I ask our guests to leave a question for the next guest, not knowing who it would be. So the question for you both, and I'll get questions from you later for the next guest. Who are some of the women in AV that inspire you, and why?
Do you have yours there?
I know, because there's
I can't.
there are.
Do you want me to pick one?
There are. I know, right? There are so many. But I'm gonna go with.
It is phrased as some, so it could be more than one.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll start with Britt Yenser. She is young and but she has so many good things to say, and is like just where she comes from, with her emotional intelligence and just how she handles people, but then it also is good at technology. So she has just is such a great person to learn from, and I like just being able to be in her orbit.
Yeah, I agree with that one too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that one too. You know what? I think I had Britt was on my mind also, but I also think and as I've gotten to talk with her, because I've always admired and watched from afar, right? Because you don't, in this industry, everything is a lot of social, and you don't always cross paths with some people and things like that. But Alicia Henley, I think she is amazing, and at the Next Level event, I got to speak with her a little bit about some of the different things that she's doing in her career, and with her at Sennheiser and with her business, and she's just. And same thing, when you are around her, she has a vibe about her that even if you're in a crappy mood, there's just something about her aura that is awesome. And yeah, so I think, because I've now I've only physically met her in person, I think twice now. But you do all the stuff over Twitter and over LinkedIn, and just seeing, what she does and everywhere that she goes, and how hard she works, and what she's done in her career and for herself, is pretty spectacular. So I've always tried to follow a little bit, and got some ideas from her yesterday too on some things I'd love to do myself. So, but yeah. I think mine would right now. I'd have to say Alicia. Yeah.
It was difficult to pick one or narrow it down, because there are
lots,
so many really great women out there
doing.
We're all keep on killing it.
Yeah, and everybody's doing great things, right? So regardless of what area of the industry they're in.
I want to add to the list too, because most recently I've been really inspired by Kristen Bidwell. She and I both started companies at the same time, and she was able to literally just hit the ground running, had a handful of clients, had people that were willing to go on that adventure with her, and they are literally just killing it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
she is.
She's so genuine about the people she serves, and she genuinely cares about architecture. That. And
she does.
The reason I say that is because you can say oh, who's my ICP, ideal client persona? Where are those people hanging out? I can go hang out there. But she's I want to hang out there. It's special. Yeah. And just kudos. So, wow, fantastic. Wonderful conversations. Thank you both Erin and Jen, for joining me for this end of year episode. It's been such a pleasure having you share your insights and experiences. And to our listeners tuning in, we will be back next year with more inspiring conversations and discussions about the ever-evolving world of AV. Erin, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can always find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter at Smearin_off_ice, or around the HETMA community, because anybody in the AV industry can join. You just won't be part of the closed side. That's higher ed only, but yeah, be sure to join in and see what the fun's all about.
Absolutely. Jen, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, just Jennifer Weaver on LinkedIn. On Twitter, I am jweaver319. You can also reach out to me through Next Level Learning at nextlevellearning.org. And yeah, those are probably the three best ways to get in touch with me.
And you can always check out our podcast.
And you can always check out our
the
podcast on AVNation.
I got to do a little promo there.
Little promo.
Yes, 100%. Thank you both. You can find me at charbet.com or the Erica Carroll and all the social places. Thank you again to all of our listeners. If you are listening to this as audio only, please be sure to check out the YouTube version, and vice versa. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find us anywhere you get any of your podcasts, along with any other AVNation show, like our friends over at EDTech and AV Career Masterminds on avnation.tv.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.